Hello, Woodlands Classical Academy. So good to see you again today. I'm going to finish our book from yesterday, Frog and Toad Are Friends, by Arnold Lobel. Remember yesterday, we read a couple of chapters. Today we're going to read chapter 3, A Lost Button, on page 28, you're right. So I just can skip right through the book to page 28. A Lost Button. Toad and Frog went for a long walk. They walked across a large meadow. They walked in the woods. They walked along the river. At last they went back home to Toad's house. "Oh, drat," said Toad. "Not only do my feet hurt, but I've lost one of the buttons on my jacket." "Don't worry," said Frog. "We will go back to all the places where we walked. We will soon find your button." They walked back to the large meadow. They began to look for the button in the tall grass. "Here's your button," cried Frog. "That's not my button," said Toad. "That button is black. My button is white." Toad put the black button in his pocket. "That's one button." A sparrow flew down. Do you know what a sparrow is? Probably like a bird. "Excuse me," said the sparrow. "Did you lose a button? I found one." "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button has 2 holes. My button has 4 holes." Toad put the button with 2 holes in his pocket. Now he has 1. That's how many buttons he has now. They went back to the woods and looked on the dark path. "Here's your button," said Frog. "That's not my button," cried Toad. "That button is small. My button is big." Toad put the small button in his pocket. Now he has, that's right, a raccoon came out from behind a tree. "I heard that you were looking for a button," he said. "Here is one that I just found." "That's not my button," wailed Toad. "That button is square. My button is round." Toad put the square button in his pocket. That's right. And now, that's how many buttons he has. Frog and Toad went back to the river. They looked for the button in the mud. "Here's your button," said Frog. "That's not my button," shouted Toad. "That button is big. My button is big." Toad put the thin button in his pocket. He was very angry. He jumped up and down and screamed, "The whole world is covered with buttons. Toad ran home and slammed the door. There on the floor, he saw his white, four-holed, big, round, big, round, thick button. Oh, said Toad, it was here all the time. What a lot of trouble I have made for Frog. How do you think he feels now? Toad took all the buttons out of his pocket. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many did he have? He took his sewing box down from the shelf. Toad sewed the buttons all over his jacket. The next day, Toad gave his jacket to Frog. Frog thought it was beautiful. He put it on and jumped for joy. None of the buttons fell off. Toad had sewed them on very well. The end. So, if this is enough story time for you today, just press stop and you can come back and watch a little bit more with me tomorrow. If you want to keep listening to Miss Bannon, I'm going to read one more chapter. I'm going to go to the table of contents. We're going to read 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth chapter, A Swim, on page 40. That's right. A Swim. Can you swim? Oh, let's get to reading. Toad and Frog went down to the river. What a day for a swim, said Frog. Yes, said Toad. I will go behind these rocks and put on my bathing suit. I don't wear a bathing suit, said Frog. Well, I do, said Toad. After I put on my bathing suit, you must not look until I get into the water. He's very shy. Why not? Asked Frog. Because I look funny in my bathing suit. That's why, said Toad. Frog closed his eyes when Toad came out from behind the rocks. Can you close your eyes? Toad was wearing his bathing suit. Don't peek, he said. Frog and Toad jumped into the water. They swam all afternoon. Frog swam fast and made big splashes. Toad swam real slow and made very small splashes. A turtle came along the riverbank. Frog, tell that turtle to go away, said Toad. I do not want him to see me in my bathing suit when I come out of the river. Frog swam over to Turtle. Turtle, said Frog, you will have to go away. Why should I? Asked the turtle. Because Toad thinks that he looks funny in his bathing suit, and he does not want you to see him, said Frog. Some lizards were sitting nearby. Does Toad really look funny in his bathing suit, they asked. A snake crawled out of the grass. If Toad looks funny in his bathing suit, said the snake, then I, for one, want to see him. Oh, snakes are pretty curious. We want to see him too, said two dragonflies. Me too, said a field mouse. I have not seen anything funny in a very long time. Frog swam to Toad. I am sorry, Toad, he said. Everyone wants to see how you will look. Then I'll stay right here until they go away, said Toad. The turtle and the lizard and the snake and the dragonflies and the field mouse all just sat on the riverbank. They waited for Toad to come out of the water. Please, cried Frog, please go away. But you think anybody went away? Well, of course not. Toad was getting colder and colder. He was beginning to shiver, sneeze. Oh, when you sneeze in your elbow. I will have to come out of the water, said Toad. I'm catching a cold. Toad climbed out of the river. The water dripped out of his bathing suit and down to his feet. The turtle laughed, the lizards laughed, the snake laughed, and the field mouse laughed, and even Frog laughed. Oh, how do you think that made Toad feel? What are you laughing at, Frog? Said Toad. I'm laughing at you, Toad, said Frog, because you do look funny in that bathing suit. Of course I do, said Toad. Then he picked up all of his clothes and he went home. That was a pretty cute story. So I have one more story, but if you've had enough of story time today, please press the stop button and you can come back and see Miss Bannon tomorrow. The last chapter in my book, Frog and Toad Are Friends, is The Letter, and it's on page 53. That's 5 10s. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 3 ones. 51, 52, 53. So I can skip all the way there and find the letter. Toad was sitting on the front porch. Frog came along and said, "What's the matter, Toad? You're looking sad." "Yes," said Toad. "This is my sad time of day. It is the time when I wait for the mail to come. It always makes me very unhappy." "Why's that?" asked Frog. "Because I never get any mail," said Toad. "Not ever?" asked Frog. "No, never," said Toad. "No one has ever sent me a letter. Every day my mailbox is empty. That is why waiting for the mail is a sad time of the day for me." Frog and Toad sat on the porch, feeling sad together. It's always good to feel good or sad with someone else, right? Then Frog said, I have to go home now, Toad. There's something that I must do. And Frog hurried home. He found a pencil and a piece of paper. He wrote on the paper, Hey, can you find a piece of paper and a pencil? Can you start writing for me? He put the paper in an envelope. On the envelope, he wrote, a letter for Toad. Frog ran out of his house. He saw a snail. A snail that he knew. Snail, said Frog, please take this letter to Toad's house and put it in his mailbox. Sure, said the snail, right away. Have you ever heard of snail mail? Usually snails are pretty slow. Then Frog ran back to Toad's house. Toad was in bed taking a nap. Toad, said Frog, I think you should get up and wait for the mail some more. No, said Toad, I'm tired of waiting for the mail. Frog looked out the window at Toad's mailbox. You think the snail was there yet? Toad said, Frog, you never know when someone may send you a letter. No, no, said Toad. I do not think anyone will ever send me a letter. Frog looked out the window. You think snail was there yet? But Toad, said Frog, someone may send you a letter today. Don't be silly, said Toad. No one has ever sent me a letter before, and no one will ever send me a letter today. Frog looked out the window. The snail was still sitting there. Now, didn't I tell you snail mail is slow? Frog, why do you keep looking out the window? Asked Toad. Because now I am waiting for the mail, said Frog. But there will not be any, said Toad. Oh, yes, there will, said Frog, because I have sent you a letter. You have? Said Toad. What did you write in the letter? Dear Toad, I'm glad that you are my best friend. Your best friend, signed Frog. Oh, said Toad, that makes a very good letter. Then Frog and Toad went out onto the front porch to wait for the mail. They sat there feeling happy together. Frog and Toad waited a long time. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and 4 days later, the snail got to Toad's house and gave him the letter from Frog. Toad was very pleased to have it. Isn't that a beautiful story? I want to show you my very own frog that lives in my yard. Isn't that a cute little frog? Well, until tomorrow, you have a wonderful day. Go on your porch and look for the snail mail, will you? I miss you. Have a great week. Goodbye, friends at Woodlands Classical.